LGBTQ people being in the military and also being and wanting to be in the military, and also just to our brothers, sisters in the transgender community. We're very lucky today to have Zoe and Zach with us. I am a psychologist, filmmaker, author, and general blah blah person. I talk a lot, but today I want to listen a lot because I'm bisexual, but I am not that knowledgeable about what transgender people go through, and particularly what they might go through in getting into the military or having been in the military. And so that's why we're so fortunate to have these two people with us. So what I want to start with is Zoe, if you could talk a little bit about your experience, maybe talk about your background. You were in the Army, and maybe you could talk about what you've been through.
Um, let's see. Um, I served from 2003 to 2005. I was Army infantry. Um, let's see. I worked with the Scouts. I served with the 101st Airborne. Deployed to Iraq for OIF 1 and 2. And in 2005, I was released from my enlistment early under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I was given an honorable discharge because I mean the character of my service was honorable. But being at Fort Campbell, they had a soldier there who was murdered a few years prior for homosexual conduct, and so as soon as like they really worked hard to get you out as soon as they possibly could, um, if they found you out there. So um, I did just shy of 3 years on my enlistment, the 6 year enlistment. I was actually hoping to go career. Oh, can you hear me better?
Yeah, you can really speak loud too. We have
Okay.
big mouths here,
Uh,
all of us. We can
uh,
all.
um, I
What do they say in the Army? Sound off. Remember that?
right, but
Because your voice is
I was re-
important.
ah, I was I was released from the army in 2005 under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Um, they had a soldier who was murdered there a few years prior to that. They actually made a movie about it called Soldier's Girl. A kid named Barry Winchell, um, but he was killed, and so Fort Campbell really took it seriously when you were found out to be part of the LGBT community. They wanted to get you out of there as quickly as possible, um, for your safety and also for their own liability, I'm sure. Um, so I finished just shy of 3 years of my enlistment contract. Um, I wanted to go career, and I didn't get to, but you know, it is what it is. I was given an honorable discharge because the character of my service was honorable. I was actually a really good soldier. I really enjoyed being in the Army, and I was good at it. All of my chain of command when I was getting out was really disappointed that they had to let me out. Like even my brigade colonel and my battalion colonel, they said, this policy's bullshit, and I hate it, and I just had to. I said, well, that's the rules, and it's not going to change until you have to kick out good soldiers, and then someday somebody's going to ask you what you think of this policy, and you're going to have to say, I've had to kick out some really good soldiers because of this policy. It needs to go, and you know, eventually it changed. I think it was 2013 that Obama came in and said, you know, we're having to let go of some really good soldiers, so this has to go, and it changed. Um, I think I think that the current policies that are in place are absolutely driven by uh, hate. Um, thus far, nobody has been able to give me a single good reason that holds up under scrutiny at all, even a little bit of scrutiny, um, as to why this needs to change, why it needed to change, and we needed to bar trans people from service and enlistment, and needed to kick out all the trans people who had been serving for years, honorably and with prestige. I mean, like some really good soldiers, sailors, and airmen and Marines that they've had to put out who've got great track records, amazing backgrounds behind them, and you know, it's just kind of mind blowing. I look at it and I'm like, wow, they're really letting go of some talent, especially during a time where they're having a really hard time recruiting. So the only reasoning that makes sense is that this is straight up bigotry. It's not. It's got nothing to do with you know, logistics or standards, or anything like that.
Or making good personnel sense, you know. You're at Fort Campbell, and so they find out you're vulnerable because of your status or your sexual orientation. Why wouldn't the good personnel strategy be to protect you and to make sure you didn't get murdered? I mean, we've had several people on this podcast, and we've never had anyone talk about the possibility of being murdered for their sexual orientation. I mean, and we've all known about it, the possibilities, from the times of the movie, Hilary Swank's movie, was it Boys Don't Cry? I think it was
Yeah,
called
yeah,
Boys Don't Cry.
great movie.
We knew how dangerous it can be just in regular society to be trans. But to be in the military, oh my God, they they literally thought someone would kill you. And
Well, they
how was
thought
that
it,
for
it could
you?
happen. Um, yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at it. Oh, I've got multiple tabs open. Hang on, let me can some of these tabs. Okay, there we go. Is that better? Okay, no worries. Um, you know, the potential of dying. I was an infantry soldier. I came to terms with my own mortality on a battlefield. You know, like when they said, well, you know, because of what happened to Barry Winchell, we'd like to process you out as quickly as possible, and I was just kind of blown away. I was like, well, I mean, I've already been to war with these guys. You know, like I've proven myself with these guys. They like and when it came out, you know, that I was getting out processed under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. You know, like they try to keep it quiet, but it doesn't stay quiet. You know, I had so many of my squad mates and platoon mates and teammates who came by and they were like, "Hey, this is stupid. Why, like, you know, who gives a damn who you sleep with? Like, this is dumb. Like, you know." And all I could do was shrug my shoulders and say, "You know what? It is what it is." You know, and
It
as far as like,
just makes me sad to hear it. It's like,
yeah.
what a horror show for you, and for what a huge loss for the Army. You just straight leg infantry? What was your MOS, just for the have it on the record?
I was 11. I was 11 Bravo,
11 Bravo. Okay.
but I was straight leg infantry. But um, I was air assault qualified as well as scout. So you know I was I was a little more high speed than your average grunt. Um, but uh, but no, I was just kind of blown away. I was like, "You're really worried about my guys killing me?" Like, and
Hmm.
honestly, at that point in my life, I was, also struggling with PTSD and depression pretty hard. So, I started looking for my own end before I left the army, and like I was telling Zach earlier, I said, uh, if you're looking for a decent ending, there's a lot better ones out there, you than
Well,
enlisting.
I'd like to come back to your Zoe, I'd like to come back to your PTSD in a minute, if you're okay. By the way,
Yeah,
everybody's free here in this podcast to not talk about anything I ask, right?
sure.
You're doing what is okay with you. So let's let Zach introduce themselves. And what I do know about Zach is the interest in being in the military and even applying to be in the military. Could you go ahead and introduce yourself, Zach, and say a little bit about what's happening with you?
Um, well, I'm Zach, obviously. I would say what's going on right now with any enlistment process at all is really we're stalling because of my weight. Weight and tape right now for even anybody, I would say is outrageous. I think there should be more of a lesser standard on that because with the current American obesity. Besides military, I'm a gamer. I like playing games for part-time stuff and I would say the struggle of not telling people that you're trans is real for people who just, want to get it off their chest and not hide it.
Hmm. Hmm. Have you raised the issue of, you haven't talked to the recruiter about your sexual orientation, right?
No, you have to hide it or else they will kick you out the
Really
door.
hide it. And Zach and I have talked about you're not hiding it by being out here on this live podcast, but
No, I'm
on the
not.
other hand, the importance of being who you are, for your,
Hmm.
as a psychologist, for your mental health, to being honest and open about who you are. Um, maybe Zach, you could talk a little bit about who you really are inside. How do you feel, and how does that affect how you see your body? How does it affect your being with friends and just your life? That we're real interested in that. If you want to talk about it.
Realistically speaking, I've been to many therapists. I don't want to say their names due to privacy reasons. Um, but I would say a big part of healing for my case of transgender, it's gonna be surgery for the honest part. Playing with friends, realistically speaking, that's just gonna be you have to put boundaries somewhere. And where it comes to my boundaries with my friends is they all know I'm trans. There is no hiding it when I talk about it with them. I mean, they can even hear it when I talk. There is a matter of you kind of have to just accept you, but more willing instead of denying it.
Hmm.
I wouldn't
Hmm.
say there's a pause. I can just deny it. I mean, you can, but for how long?
Hmm.
I would say that's the main issue. If you want a better backstory, I mean, growing up, I wasn't really allowed to talk like myself. I felt more feminine because of who my parents were.
Hmm.
So you have to come to the sit down talk with even your parents and just say, hey, I'm not a female. You need to learn to respect that. Saying it bluntly, of course, but there's always a better way to talk about it.
How did that go with your parents? Is that okay to talk about?
Yeah, of course. I would say it came to the conclusions of mistreatment at the end of the day. I mean, they still shoved it down my throat where it's like, oh, you're female still at birth. I'm just like, I don't care what my birth says. I care about present, now, and future. There was a time where my dad tried killing me and sexually assaulting me. I mean, there I pressed charges and I left Ohio just because of how I presented myself, who I was. I can't say for every family what it's going to turn out to be. I mean, I like to speak openly and honestly with everybody about my history because it's different than what your ordinary family would be. But I would also say you need to understand just the individual alone who is trans, what has made them come to the conclusion. Don't convert them, but be more accepting to what their thoughts are.
Did you feel like you got any support from Ohio, from the police, or from the system there, or from mental health there, or from anybody there? I mean,
I will say those police was dog shit. For what it was, they were horrible. They didn't really care about you. Therapists that I did have down there, amazing. I can't say enough about them.
well, that's helpful, okay. I'm glad for my profession anyway, that they were responsive and helpful listening to you, huh? Okay.
I can second on the therapists in Ohio because that's where I live now, and the therapists here are incredible. We have some of the best medical professionals and psychiatric professionals I've ever been in contact with.
That is so cool. And in a red state too. That's kind of amazing. Okay. I was
Just don't look
expecting
at
horror
yeah.
stories with mental health folks or,
There,
yeah,
I have a few, because I was going through just a mental breakdown, so to speak, with the fact my parents were just assaulting me and everything, all that type of mistreatment, even mental and the verbal mental aspect of assault. Um, I went to the hospital just to see if I can get resources, and then they just pink slipped me, saying I was suicidal when I wasn't, and I couldn't get
and
out of the
put,
hospital for a week.
and put you in the hospital. Okay. Yeah.
And it was involuntarily. I couldn't fight it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is the downside of depending parts of Ohio. I mean, obviously, but there is the downside of that where it has taken me away from trying to go to any doctor because I just get scared every time.
Do you have a doctor now where you don't have to say where you're at now, but I mean, are you in Ohio or not? You're
No,
not in Ohio. So are you getting the medical care you need now?
medical as in physical and like a family's physician, yes. Like my current doctor, he's great. I love him, can't say enough. He's very open, he's very honest, he does not care about who I present myself as.
Zoe, could you, now hearing Zach, what they're going through, what would you advise as far as the military is concerned? I mean, would
Um,
you,
there's a lot
is,
of alternatives to the military. I mean, if you want to serve, there's plenty of ways to serve that aren't carrying a rifle. Um, Not that there's anything wrong with it, um, but it's just there's better ways to make a difference in the world that are just as all inclusive as a military education and job. Um, as far as like where to go from here, I would I would suggest leaning heavily on found family. Um, I've got an amazing partner, a fantastic group of friends that are as close to me as my family ever was. All of my parents and grandparents have unfortunately passed. Um, my stepdad and I don't really talk. He's back home in Oklahoma. My little sister and I are pretty tight. I actually talked to her this morning, but that's really just about all the family I really talk to anymore.
but it sounds like you're saying, Zoe, that you would advise Zach not to go in the military, even if he can,
I would
even if they can get in.
I, I would I would say that there are other options that are going to be better options that are going to be more inclusive. Um, you know that right now. I mean, if we weren't in the situation that we are currently with politics, I'd say sure. If that's what you want to do, then do it. Like it's a good option. When I enlisted, it was a good time to enlist. You know, 5 years ago would have been a great time to enlist. Now, there's not enough money in the world, to say that I would want to enlist.
And that's because,
Unfortunately,
that's because
we're
of
in a
the actual
recession.
danger to you. The actual
Yeah,
danger to you as a trans person, the
yeah,
inability, I'm just going over it, the inability
yeah,
of the command to support you.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's you know, I was never worried about dying. When I was in, that dying's something we all got to do. You know, it's you know, but being able to serve on your own terms. People will say, well, it's a life of sacrifice. It is. It is a life of sacrifice. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to have some of your own terms met. And those terms should be really basic. You should be able to serve as who you are. Like, Zach should be able to enlist as Zach and be Zach and have a good life and you know be all he can be. Or I think that's what the Army slogan is now. Showing my age here, but like it's at very minimum you should be allowed to serve as who you are. And if you can't do that, then they don't deserve you. Um,
It's
you
well
know,
put, and they're, and we're, and like you were saying, they're having trouble recruiting people. They're having trouble, particularly in the Army, they're having difficulty filling the slots, and particularly for infantry. And look, you would be well into a career, and look how this goes.
yeah,
Um,
and
but
they keep bringing up that well the Army's having a hard time recruiting because it's gone woke. It's not because it's gone woke. The Army's having a hard time recruiting because for the last 20 some odd years, we've been at war. And all these kids who are in the age bracket that they enlist have grown up seeing these soldiers come home broken and
mhm,
then abandoned by a system that
mhm,
was promising the whole time to take good care of them. Like these kids, are looking to their dads and their uncles and their moms and their aunts, and they're going, "Hey, I want to enlist," and these parents and aunts and uncles are going, "Like hell, you are." Just look at what your cousin went through. Just look at what your dad went through. Just look at what your aunt went through when they enlisted, and they got home, and now they're all messed up, and maybe the VA's taking good care of them, but their quality of life still isn't what it would have been if they hadn't have served, and that's because the military's not keeping their promises. The government's not keeping their promises that they made to these soldiers and these service members who went off to war, and that's why they're having a hard time enlisting people.
I
That's why
wouldn't
their
say it's
retention rates
because
are
of the
low.
promises, though. I wouldn't say that alone. Based off what I
Well,
know
it's
as being a person that you're talking about and the ranges that should be going through the recruiting process now, yes, I do agree with you. It is a part of the family when they see when they come home. I would agree 100%. But there's also the point of the ASVAB. Some of these
yeah,
points that you have to go through just to get. Most of my age people, keep in mind, I'm 20. I'm very young. I'm still at the peak of my youthness for some. But here's the problem, they want you to score a 31 to be an infantry. You know what we always hear in the movies? And I know the movies ain't like the what real you see, but they always say, oh, the grunts get, they don't have to score. If the grunts don't have to score, then why are we having to score at all? I think right
well,
now, and it's not just because of the recruiting crisis, I'm saying this, they need to look in the mirror and realize what the ASVAB actually stands for. not alone with the current issues with, the political, but I also believe it. It's not just what they see when they come home, but it's also the whole aspect of you have the ASVAB where most people my age now, we get anxiety when we see a test. Yeah, they made the pie cat, but that's just as hard. I mean, I want people to put in effort
When you say you
Right.
get anxiety, why do you have anxiety about the test? I mean,
because
everybody has
as
anxiety about tests, but why does
100%.
your generation have particular anxiety about it?
Our generation was already put through a lot. I mean, I was born in 2005. We were tested on, depending what state you're on and everything, depending who enforced it. We had so many tests where we were just timed. And getting timed on test is just infeasible to me. I mean, if you ask me, every kid should have the bare minimum of having unlimited support, and that you got the aspect of school now where it's like that's still changing. No one can decide. And if you really want me to be real about the anxiety, what's it for me personally? A lot of the algebra, no one's going to remember. I've been out of school for about 3 years now, 3 to 2. I would say, it's just the fact of who you are and built.
So it's just, so that whether you're transgendered or not, just the test anxiety, all the different um, qualifications that are necessary to become an enlisted person or to become an officer for that matter. I remember I had to jump through all kinds of hoops. I was an enlisted soldier for 3 years in a reserve unit, and I remember all the crazy stuff we had to do just to get qualified in basic training. There was a lot of stuff to do, but I look back on it now and I think, well, if I had really had to go into combat as an infantry soldier, which I didn't, I was always safe where I was. I was either in a reserve unit or in the hospitals, doing
Hmm.
psychology. But some of that stuff would have saved my ass, if
Hmm.
I had paid it, and they were not easy things to do. What was it? Probably the most difficult was aspects of the physical fitness course, which we had to finish in a certain that was timed.
Hmm.
But I don't know, Zoe. What do you think about physical fitness as far as becoming an
Um,
infantry soldier?
well, if you're infantry, if you're combat arms, your body is a weapon. Period. Um, and the going back to the ASVAB thing, the ASVAB isn't necessarily designed to test how smart you are. I mean, they want to know you have a basic set of computational skills, but more than anything, it's designed to figure out how well you learn. Um, you know, they go off a GT score, which you can almost directly correlate with someone's IQ. And if your GT score is above, I think it's 114, when I enlisted, you could literally have any job you wanted in the Army. I scored a 118. Um, and I could have literally been anything I wanted in the Army, but I wanted to be infantry because I thought, well, that sounds like fun, you know? And it was a lot of fun. It was also a lot of, boring dog and pony, but it was fun, I met a lot of great guys, met some of the best human beings I've ever known in my life when I was there. I also met some of the worst people I've ever known. But as far as physical fitness goes, your body is a weapon. Period. Um, and you should be at your peak. Just like you train with your rifle and you train with all the other weapons, you should train to have your body in the best condition it can be in because you're it's not just you that relies on your body. It's everybody around you is relying on your body. Everybody around you is relying on you being able to do all the things that are going to be needed to do, and some of the things that you don't even know that you might be doing. Like things happen, conditions dictate, terrain dictates. You might plan for a mission one way, and you get there, and it's got to go a whole different way you didn't even see because, you know,
Let's let Zach, can you respond to that? What do you think? And then when you're hearing Zoe say what the actual requirements might be of an infantry soldier.
I would say she has a point. I mean, completely honest. I mean, she does, but I would also say regarding about, you know, requirements like just to enter, I would say. Yeah, they want you at your peak, but what's the point of being at your peak and slightly off? Like currently I'm 225 pounds. That's overweight for military. I would say, if you're going to go through basic and you're 10% overweight, what is the point when you're going through basic instead of just helping out? Especially right now with the recruiting crisis, for crying out loud, you're going to go to basic regardless and get in the best shape you can.
yeah.
I would say it's
But,
more of you kind of got to conclude recruiting crisis and then the current obesity with America.
Yeah,
right.
I get it. I mean, that during the Vietnam War, there was we ran out of soldiers. We had 500,000 people in Vietnam, and McNamara did something called the McNamara 100,000. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but there were 100,000 people, young men, I think only, that didn't quite meet the requirements that he allowed in. And I remember in my basic training unit at Fort Lewis, Washington, we had one man who was having trouble with reading, and he had been what they call recycled, meaning he had been through the first basic training cycle but couldn't pass because of his reading. And so all of us were tutoring him to try to help him become proficient enough so he could read, because he was functionally illiterate in that case. And sometimes we'd have overweight people, and what was it called? Being on there was some kind of special program you were on, and you got to work it out, But I guess I'm hearing from you, Zach, you'd like to be able to have that be an option for you, that you really would like to get in. Maybe you could say, what is your motivation for getting in the military? Why would you really like to go?
Honestly, I would say I personally believe death has always walked with me, and why not partner with it instead of battle it?
There's
So in
that
other
saying,
words, I would rather be in
Yeah.
11 Bravo than just live a life that wasn't meant to be mine.
Beautifully said. My soldier son was a 10th Infantry Division. What was he? He was a dragon gunner, I guess, what he was in the 10th Mountain Division. And he said his saying is, he's on one of these broadcasts. One of his saying is the way he dealt with death was that a soldier has to think of himself as or herself or themselves as already dead, and then the fear of dying. I'm not of that. I haven't adopted that because I never chose. I chose not to be in a combat situation for that very reason, that I didn't want to die and I didn't want to deal with my issues about death. But I hear it, Zach, that your life, you'd like to spend it. If you're worried about if it's death is on your mind now, you'd rather be doing something positive with that. That makes sense to me, and I get it. Zoe, maybe you could talk about PTSD. What happened with you? And part of this whole thing now is that our president has cut 80,000 jobs from the Veterans Administration. So I get a lot of my care at the VA because I have a problem leg and some other problems because I'm old. 80,000 doctors, nurses, people that answer the phone,
Yeah,
physical
I think
therapists.
the point behind that wasn't to save money. The point behind that was to privatize. Um, I think,
Speak real loud,
and you
Zoe, so
know,
we can hear you, okay?
the point behind that was privatization.
Hmm.
I think that that there could be some money saved in the long run if you privatize the right way. Um, but you have to recognize as a decision maker above these types of situations that veterans have certain medical needs that civilians don't have. You know, um, combat related trauma, that's not something that your average civilian's going to have. Um, like, understanding that healing a veteran from trauma is a lot different than healing a civilian from trauma, because vets draw a lot of our value from our trauma. You know, our sacrifice is what gives our lives value to, you know, to society. I mean, we're told our whole military career that we're heroes because of the things that we've endured for God and country. Um, and when you heal a, a veteran in a way that takes away that sacrifice, that makes it, that devalues it, because now it's all better.
Hmm.
You've devalued that veteran's life in their own mind, and in their own way of seeing things. You know, well, I'm all healed up now, so my sacrifice doesn't mean as much as it did before. You know, and you can heal a civilian that way, and they're fine. But when you heal a veteran that way, you've robbed them of a lot of their identity, which is an even bigger problem. You know, it's funny because a lot of the veterans who wind up uh, taking their own lives, you know, they interview the families and the friends and the loved ones of these people, and they say, well, they had just had a breakthrough in therapy. They were doing so good, you know, and it's like, well, yeah. And then they suddenly realize that they aren't damaged in a way that makes their sacrifice as valuable as it was in the eyes of others. You know, and now they feel like, you know, what's the point anymore? You know, and so you have to be real careful about how you approach uh, treating, you know, combat related mental health problems.
Hmm.
Um, because
Zoe, could you
you run the
talk,
risk of,
did you have combat-related mental health problems or
yeah,
issues come
yeah,
up?
absolutely,
Are you
absolutely.
able to
I
talk
have,
about that? Is that okay with you?
yeah, I have PTSD. I have multiple traumatic brain injuries. I have comorbidities related to all that PTSD. Um, and I've been in therapy for over 20 years from it. You know, actually, next month is I'll have been out of the army for 20 years. Um, and
What happened
you
to
know,
you? Could you talk about it?
I got blown up. I got blown up a couple of times. I lost a best friend. Um, I saw a lot of death. I, you know, I participated in a lot of death. And you know, it's taken me it's taken me a lot of years to find, you know, drug cocktails that are effective and coping mechanisms that are uh, constructive and effective. And I've, you know, over the last couple of years, I've you know, my therapists at the VA, you know, and you know, my psychiatrist and my psychologist, and they've got a special mental health clinic that I go to, where we now do ketamine treatments, which are
Hmm.
miraculous.
Hmm.
They are nothing short of miraculous in
Wow,
their effectiveness.
that's
Um,
good news.
oh yeah, it's incredible. The work
Did
that
you have
they're
any
so good.
physical injuries to go with the
I
emotional
got a
mental health injuries?
I got a bad knee and a bad shoulder. You know,
Hmm.
a few aches and pains, but nothing lasting. You know, nothing that on its own keeps me from being able to get around. You know, as much as I want to. I'm a little slow moving sometimes, but I'm also 43 years old and a combat veteran, so uh,
Wait till
you
you're
know,
77 years old. You know, these things tend to pile up, and
they're all problems
you,
that don't get better with age.
yeah. Zach, thank you, Zoe. Zach, have you had some trauma in your life and that's related, perhaps related to the transgender issue or anything else what you'd like to share?
Trauma wise, I've had a lot of it. Speaking on behalf of what I experienced, obviously, I would say being yelled at as a kid and being forced to be like dressing all girly and everything, maybe it did. Maybe it did have an effect on me. I cannot say that for sure. I
Hmm.
would say for any parent that may watch this, don't force your kid to wear anything that is gender based. I hate that personally based off how I grew up.
And you're not sure you call it trauma, but you hated it. You referred to being assaulted. That was that traumatic for you?
I looked at it as a awakening to maybe start looking at the military path. I used what could have been trauma to improve,
To improve what?
to see where I wanted to go in life. Whether it was, military, SWAT, I mean, there's many career paths where you can be a weapon.
And was a weapon used against you, or just somebody's, or I don't say just, but somebody's body, or was there actually a weapon? Why a weapon? Why do you want to be a weapon?
I wouldn't say a weapon was used against me. Um, I've had things thrown at me. I mean, I've had every experience you can that wasn't exactly a weapon per se. Like, average people say a weapon is a gun or a knife. Um, I wouldn't say those experiences made me a weapon or maybe want that longing, I guess. There's a better chance of saying I found myself a home because when I originally started looking at the army, I was about 300 pounds, very overweight, not healthy. So I would say I originally found the home when I realized trans people could enlist in the last term of who was in office before our current political situation took over. I would also say for that same reason, it kind of made me hopeful to join, despite what's happening now.
That makes sense. So we have two excellent people here. Both of them wanted to serve. One of them was allowed to serve for a while until our military personnel policies and the command policies couldn't handle it. And our political situation in the country does not allow it now. And I'm In my judgment, I could be wrong, but in my judgment, it's become materially more risky to be out in this culture now, in this political. Mhm. Social media issues, okay?
I would say
With-
social media is very well controlled, and if you get the right person that's within fame saying, "Oh, trans people are bad," that's gonna do a lot of harm.
And are you seeing
Social
that a
media.
lot, Zach?
Personally speaking, on anything I scroll on, then yes. If you're talking on general media, it's very controlled.
Do you see social media though turning against transgender people? I mean, I don't know if you can talk in general like that, but
If I see it turning on trans people, then no. But I've have seen it for there is many sides of social media. Let me say that one first before I say it has turned. So on my side of it, my feed, no. But there is sides of it I do and I am aware where they are turning on them.
Zoe, what's your experience of social media?
Um, Social media. It really just depends. All of my social media feeds are pretty well curated. Um, I use my social media to kind of keep track of what's going on in the world,
Hmm.
and I do that by having people that I follow who kind of help me filter out a lot of the knee-jerk reaction stuff that's meant to raise a reaction. Um, but ultimately, I don't think social media is turning against us. I think that when it comes to the way that conservative media, social media ites are, um, there are less haters out there than there are tolerant people. And the problem with seeing that is that the haters are always louder. And that's, that's because they want attention mostly. And a lot of it boils down to them wanting their opinions to be heard and validated, and you know, like they think they're right, so they want to hear other people say they're right versus the people who know they're right and just say it and go on.
Have you been watching?
But
Oh, go ahead. So
the
I'm watching
problem
it.
is
If
it
you
sounds.
if you guys watch South Park
Oh gosh,
and
South Park has
and
been great.
South Park's really been going after the president lately.
Oh,
Oh,
And but
certainly the whole administration.
I would think South Park is going to be the reason. One of them, let me say, there's going to be multiple, obviously, that Trump is going to give up, in a lack of better words.
Um,
the, I wanted to
South
ask
Park
you
is
specifically about Cartman where he goes transgendered. Have you seen that clip where he
I have
I
not.
haven't
he's
seen that one yet.
okay? You got to look at that because I wanted to get your guys' reaction to it, whether it felt hurtful to you or helpful to you, or it's so he likes to go anti-woke. That was Cartman's big, makes him very happy to find some kind of target for liberal values so he can be a little asshole like he is. And so and it seemed like woke was winning, so he says he's transgendered now. And then he wants to go in the woman's bathroom and do that whole thing. But I was hoping you guys had seen it. I should have said something to you before to get your
I
reaction.
I
But
haven't
it
seen it
seems
yet.
it's kind of good that transgendered people are becoming more mainstream. They're, like you were saying, Zoe, maybe the majority of Americans are fair-minded and don't really need to interfere in the sexual interests of other people who are deciding what's best for them with other adults in their lives. Maybe the majority of Americans really don't want government interfering in that. And I don't think the majority of Americans want government interfering with good soldiers being in the military, no matter what their sexual orientation is. Okay, but I'm through pontificating. What were you going to say, Zoe?
Um, it didn't really bother me when South Park does what they do with trans people or queer people or any kind of people. They they poke at everybody. That like it is a satirical show that is meant to make people think and make people ask questions. And I actually kind of love that Cartman's doing this because everybody knows that Cartman's an asshole. Like that's who Cartman is. And so since it's Cartman that's doing this, everybody who watches South Park and knows South Park knows that Cartman's being an asshole. So like if they're gonna engage in this kind of behavior, people are gonna think they're an asshole. Um, so like as far as like feeling hurt that he's Cartman's now transgendered and wants to go into the women's bathroom. Um, I think I haven't seen the episode yet, but if he does make it into the bathroom, he's going to realize that it's just a bathroom. And in my experience, the men's room is usually cleaner. Like I don't know why, but the men's room is almost always cleaner and almost always smells better. It's true. Like if it weren't for the safety issue, I would be fine with going to the men's room because it's cleaner and it smells better. Typically, I don't know why the women's rooms get less attention. I think it's because people expect that women take better care of the bathroom. I'm sure that women do. I don't know because I don't hang out in women's bathrooms. I go in there, I do my business, I wash my hands and leave. Like it's not a party going on in there. It's
Well,
just a
sometimes
bathroom.
I can't help but interrupt. Sometimes it feels like we just had a whole on toilet paper war in there.
Yeah,
I can speak
yeah,
on the behalf of that. I've seen it personally. I'm just like, either it was a child or an immature adult.
yeah. And as far as the bathroom argument and the invading women's spaces argument that everybody wants to use as the hot button issue, I mean, that's easily fixed. If you've ever been to a decent truck stop, like most of the Flying J's and Pilots and Love's truck stops, the bathroom stalls have floor to ceiling walls and floor to ceiling doors with no gaps and locks on the doors. That's all they've got to do. Literally. Like, if like
Because it's really not about that, is it?
yeah, no,
It's
it's not. If they
it's not
really
It's
about
wanted to
anything
solve the
practical.
problem, yeah, if they wanted to solve the problem is easily solved.
mm,
But they don't want to solve the problem because if they solve the problem, then they can't complain anymore.
Well, and the
So,
problem is in our own minds, isn't it?
yeah,
Those who cannot accept people being a little bit different than they, or a lot different than they are. It's
yeah,
part of
exactly.
humans have trouble with that.
Here in Cleveland at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, it's a big venue we have here. It's where the Cavs play. They have an all gender bathroom. It's a unisex bathroom. They've had it for years, and not one single time has there ever been a problem, ever. Like, and the reason being is because there's floor to ceiling stalls with no gaps, and you go in the stall, you do your business, you walk out of the stall, and it's got a communal sink where or a bank of sinks where everybody washes their hands and leaves. Like, there's never been a problem with a sexual assault, ever. I don't know that there ever will be. Um, and if there is, I can, without a doubt, 110% say that it's not going to involve a trans woman as the aggressor.
There we go.
It's just
Okay,
not,
Zach, anything you want to respond to this? And we're about at the end of our podcast here. Let's have wrapping up comments. Zach, maybe you could wrap up what you would like to say. Anything, any shout outs you'd like to do, uh, or anything else you'd like to say?
Honestly speaking, based off the South Park comment, believe South Park is also meant for comedy as well as like because it is a cartoon. At the end of the day, people are just gonna watch it because it's a cartoon. But about the transgender or whatever, I believe that's just comical and because he is an asshole, yes. But to finish off mostly, I would say there needs to be more of a problem solver instead of a problem maker in this world. And that's, I would say, at least in the United States, that's one of the problems.
Well put. Zoe, anything you'd like to say as we sign off here?
Yeah. Last year, my partner and I, who's also a trans woman, we went to Tulsa to visit my sister. We try to get down there once a year and visit my nephews and my sister and her husband and the rest of our extended family that we enjoy. And we went to eat dinner at a hibachi place there in Tulsa, and we were sitting there at the table with an older couple who obviously, the husband worked in the oil field. You could tell by his clothing, and there was another couple there who were younger, and I felt like they were probably on a first date or a second date. And the cook was, very cool, and the woman from the older couple started talking to my partner, and my partner and her were making conversation, and then out of nowhere, because the lady asked, well, how are you enjoying Tulsa? My partner goes, for being a trans lesbian couple, it's been really nice. And the lady, like, it just blew my mind. I thought, oh my God, am I going to have to shoot my way out here? Like, the lady smiled, reached over and put her hand on my partner's arm and said, honey, nobody cares about that. I know that it's all over the news, but nobody cares. As long as you are being you and not bothering nobody, you're fine. And
Those are two
I
powerful.
Be honest with you.
Well
I gotta be
put.
honest with you. I was really blown away. And then when I thought about it for a moment and matched it up with our experience with the people we had interacted with there, nobody cared. Like, the only people who are mad about it are people who want to be mad about it. And like you have to actively want to be mad about trans people, because we've been here since literally before written history, and we're not going anywhere. And so if you really want to be mad about it, I guess that's your prerogative, but you're wasting a lot of energy making yourself mad about it, because we're not doing anything to make you mad.
Well, Zoe, I'm wishing that you had been able to stay, but now you have a voice outside of the military. And that's good news. Zach, I hope if you still want to get in, you can. And someday these crazy policies will change. They may not. But I want to thank you both for being here and speaking up. And I want to thank all of our listeners and watchers for tuning in. And if you're interested in a book on two gay men who have a relationship during combat and during the Vietnam War, pick up the book Love and Country, which is a novel, or watch the movie Love and Country, which is on Tubi, YouTube, Amazon, Roku. I don't know, it's all over the place. Learn about what people go through to be in the military, to be LGBTQ in the military, or just to be LGBTQ. We're different. We're a little bit different. But really, as Zoe's saying, most people don't give a shit. Most people don't care that we're different, but some people do. So we're glad that we're happy for those who speak up and, uh, and those who support us. We appreciate that. Please like and subscribe. Also, we want to thank Mitch McDonald, who's our producer, who's made this production happen, and who's mastering the tech of doing all of this. And keep tuning in, because we'll have more interviews, and my best wishes to Zoe and Zach. So bye for now.
Take care.